All the time? Hello? Feedback? Uy, murag nawadaan ako. I think I lost my battery, Pastor. Can I have... Kini, Pastor? Ay, nagkulam sa ako. Okay, man. I'm good. Okay. So my topic this morning is how to use Ellen White resources. So let me lead you first to the very basic resource that we have handy. The Ellen White writings, number 2, the blue one. So have you used this application so far? Were you able to maximize the application? So today, let me teach you, maybe there are things you do not know that you might be amazed that it's there in your own phone. Okay? Let's go first to all collections. And then let me lead you first to references. Okay, references. There. References. And then, on your references, you might want to know dictionaries. These are dictionaries available during Ellen White's time, the New Webster Dictionary of 1828. So you might understand how does they understand the language of their time. Take for example, perversion. What do they mean by perversion? Karon ang perversion lahi naman oh. Perversion is wrong use. Wrong use. And then a modern pocket dictionary by Dr. Campbell. Yeah? Michael Campbell. The modern dictionary. And then we have children's stories over there. Children's stories. Nangutana sa ako si Pastor Torion. Pastor, I'm going to do sa elementary school a week of prayer about spirit of prophecy. These are good materials for children. E.G. White reference work. These are the, Pastor Ian, the book now. Understanding Ellen White is already there. The Gift of Prophecy by Alberto Tim. The Gift of Prophecy, another Gift of Prophecy. One-on-one questions. These are issues. One-on-one questions by Fagel. Ellen White. Why believe in Ellen White? These are good resource books that are available handy on your phones. Did you know about this? See? Sayang, no? And do you know that we are literally spending millions of dollars for the website of the White Estate? Millions. I'm talking about not just million, but millions of dollars just for the White Estate, because this is the most visited site in all of Seventh-day Adventist resource, the Ellen White. Now, Pastor, what about Bible guides for spirit of prophecy? Take for example, you want to have a quiz or something to guide your study on Adventist home. See? Did you see that? Did you see that? This is a guide for study if you want to study Adventist home. So if you want to encourage them, okay, this year we will study Adventist home every Sabbath school. So what you're going to do, you have to read it, and then I will have a quiz. or I will have a test. These are the books available for you across this line. All of these books has already Bible or guide, study guide for Spirit of Prophecy. Can you just imagine that? Okay. What else? Reference works, or I already told you about that. Research documents about Trinity, about plagiarism. This is the Trinity, but Ellen White's Trinitarian statements, I think, and then about all sorts of issues are already there, including the 1888 Vegetarianism by Roger Kuhn, Ellen White and Vegetarianism, all is there. See? All is there. These are the research documents that you can use. There are numerous resources already. Okay? Historical references. Ano yung mga ginamit ni Ellen White, you know, or you want to know about history, Daubigny, and some other references that Ellen White used, you know, and our leaders use. What else? Okay? Let's talk about New Spirit of Prophecy, the Conflict series. By the way, this is a newly released book by the Wide Estate. We will be promoting this next 5 years. And you might want to open this. This is for youth so that they can understand the whole concept of the conflict of the ages. But you can easily download that, and I'm already talking to the Philippine Publishing House so that we can publish this and sell it out in public. Okay? The conflict series. What about letters and manuscripts? Now, these days, we do not have unpublished writings of Ellen White. Everything is there. Take, for example, the annotated letters and manuscripts of Ellen White so that you may know the exact context of the letters and manuscript. It's already there. But the only available is volume 1. I think this is from 1844 to 1858 only. We do not have, we are not yet, they are still finishing the other annotated forms. Okay? So letters and manuscripts are there. Biography of Ellen White, anything about Ellen White's life. Last time when we were in Australia, I used this. The Biography of Ellen White by Arthur White in Australia from 1891 to 1900. So if you want to know about the life of Ellen White, this is her biography. Okay? Especially written by Arthur White and some other authors. What about modern English version of Ellen White's writings? These are the modern English version of Ellen White's writings. And then what about our Adventist pioneers? You can name the author that you want. These are the authors: Butler, James White, William Miller, Uriah Smith, all our authors there. Writings are also there. Take, for example, Butler has 4 books that he has written, all there. But you have to be very careful in research. Sometimes, Pastor, they would say, Ellen White said no. You have to confirm whether it is Butler or it is Uriah Smith. But sometimes because it came from this app, they thought that it has quotation from Ellen White. The commonly mistake, Pastor, is Review and Herald. They thought that the whole Review and Herald was written by Ellen White. I quote from Review and Herald 1896, and Ellen White said. But when you look at it, it was not said by Ellen White. In order for you to confirm whether it is said by Ellen White, you go to text.egwwritings.org. Later, I'll tell you, I'll lead you there. But at least now, just for you to know how to use this app. And then the modern authors of today, Leroy Fromm, okay, even I think Michael Campbell is also here. Okay, Michael Campbell is also there. Okay, it's there. Spencer Robinson's and all of it. Okay, too much for this. Let's go to a website I really like so much. Let's go first to the basic website. The most basic website is Ellen White Estate. Sorry. Oh my. Wala di ay internet. Okay, let's go to. There are two major websites. Number one is White Estate. Okay, White Estate website. This one. You can get your app from here. You can download in Mac or in your Microsoft the applications here in White Estate. Okay? But I don't commonly use this because this is the broader one. The next one is the EGWWritings.org, where the writings of Ellen White can be found. Where is it? In EGWWritings.org. You can even find your own language there. If you search it by language. By the way, you can enroll or you can register here so that they can keep all your study together. You can even make sermons there because here in this website, you have commentaries of the Bible, different kinds of commentaries of the Bible. Even lexicons can be found here. The writings of Ellen White. It's a one-stop to make all your presentations. A one-stop to make all your sermons. And they can keep all your data in one place. They can even remember all the quotations you have ever visited. Okay? So, but you can only do that if you register and it's free. Okay? It's free. So there are, the writings of Ellen White are here. Let me see, because this is English. You can choose what language you want to choose. Okay, here. Okay, so, yeah, Tagalog. Oh, let me go. Okay, Ellen White's writings. Let's see, Tagalog. Bahasa. Tagalog. Oh, bakit ang Tagalog naging iba? No, this is not Tagalog. Oh yeah, it is. Sandali lang Let me go to another EGW writings. There's a glitch. Okay. Sign out muna ako. It's okay. Let me sign out first para we can explore this. Here. Cebuano. There are 19 books. So Pastor Toledo, if there are more books from PPH, we will put it there. So there are 5 devotionals books. These are the books available for Cebuan. Ang mga buhat sa mga apostoles, ang dakong away. So you can quote from this if you want to preach. Okay? Usually ang buhaton nato, kita na may nag-translate, no? Kita may mo translate or we directly quote it from English. Pero karon, it's available. Even in Hiligaynon, it's also available. Let's see. Can you help me, Hiligaynon? Or maybe Ilonggo or Hiligaynon. Here, there are 10 books in Hiligaynon. Ito mga kauturan, okay? So, this is Hiligaynon, mga laygay para sa iglesia. So, these are, so may laygay. This is not complete. This is the only one available, Pastor. This is the only one available. So, if you know books that are not available here, inform us, Pastor Toledo, because we will give that book to the JAR conference so that it could be available here. Okay? Inform us. If there are still books available that have not been available in the Wide State, tell us because we will forward it to the Wide State. So have you been informed of this before? Kabalo ba mo ani sa una? Just now. Karon lang yun. So that's why we need to teach this so that we can be informed. Many of our brethren want to read Ellen White's writings pero wala sila'y available. So it's there. Okay, we are just starting. Now let's go. Let me now go to the available books. Kaning gipakita na ko ganiha sa inyo on my phone is all available in the EGWWritings.org. All. Okay? So, naana diha, including the reference books. Here, nakakita mo ganiha, documents. Here are the books that are available. Naana diha, what is available on your phone is also available on this website. What website? EGWWritings.org. Okay. May pangutana, Pastor, na ako'y gipangita nga quotation kang Ellen White, asa ko mo adto. Okay. Let me give you a tip. Okay. Hack. Don't go to this website. There is an exact text. You just put text.egwwritings.org. Put text.egwwritings.org so that you can go to the exact search engine of the Wide State. Search engine. Sa ato pa, this is comprehensive na anatanan. Pananglitan. You are curious to know about chocolate. Was there any chocolate in the writings of Ellen White? There's only but one reference to chocolate of Ellen White, which means that we should not make a doctrine out of one reference. And why chocolate was a little negative here is it was not because of the chocolate. It was because of the sweets that is associated with chocolate. Okay? Now, just to give you a little idea. Pananglitan, kanang bathing on Sabbath. A bath, Sabbath. So there. Sabbath ramay gikuha niya. O, kani hot bath. Nakita niyo to last time I told you about bath. I took a hot bath. Remember? Ika ni dire. So, this is as far as Ellen White writings is concerned. I'm not still talking about as far as the White Estate research is concerned. We are just talking about Ellen White's writings. Pananglitan, pila sa writings ni Ellen White talks about salt. Kadagay may na issue sa salt. So this is the most comprehensive. How many hits? There are 860 results when it comes to salt. In contrast to chocolate, there's but only one. Okay? Pero pag abot sa salt, daghan kayo. So, this is the most comprehensive. Now, if you want to filter, you can filter. If you want to only know about periodicals, manuscript release, letters and manuscript, Pastor Toledo, if you only want letters and manuscripts, filter it there so that it cannot go to the books of Ellen White. Letters and manuscript is the most primary source. So they will not bring you to compilation. They will only bring you to primary source. Kanang letters o manuscript. It means that it was not a compilation. Pananglitan, Counsels on Diet and Food was not written by Ellen White. It was compiled by the Dietary Department of Loma Linda for the Nutrition Department. So, but it was taken from the primary sources from Ellen White. So therefore, it is Ellen White's writings, but Ellen White did not organize it. So the organization is already an influence of the person who has an objective. And what was the objective of the person? To lay down all that talks about diet and nutrition. But it was not for the whole world to know. But you know, when you organize things, it has already been under your interpretation when you organize things, yeah? But just to give you an idea of Counsels on Diet and Food, before you read Counsels on Diet and Food, read the last chapter. The last chapter is Extremes in Diet. So if you read it, you would have an idea of how to read the whole book, yeah? So that you would not be extreme in your interpretation. Okay? Now let's go to one of the most powerful resource, in Ellen White's writings, ellenwhite.org. Oh, I love this. This is now the best that we have ever had. So if you want to show in Ayas, Pastor Dana, talk to me, Pastor. We want to show 20 minutes to the children about our heritage. I would say this video is the best. And when you go to the White Estate, and also to SSD, you can see this mural, and this is the video. Can you play the audio there? Is it possible? Wala. Okay.
In 1989, the Ellen G. White Estate commissioned Alfred Lee to paint a 30 by 8 foot mural based on Ellen White's first vision. The Christ of the Narrow Way was unveiled in 1991. Since then, it has been seen by thousands of visitors from all over the world.
So just to give you an idea that in this video, they will show and put the highlight, the spotlight on each of these pioneer, including Abraham LaRue, to know their contribution in the history of Seventh-day Adventists. Now, this can be replicated in your conference, in your union, if you have a big screen, so that visitors, as soon as they go to your conference or union, can watch this and to have a little idea of how we began as a movement of truth. Amen? So at least just for an introduction, I will not show you anymore everything. Okay, so let's go to the resource. How important is this website? Okay, so these are the writings of Ellen White. I already showed to you this website about Ellen White. And then, so resources. This is now the most important. Resources for pastors, hindi na ako mabasa. For teachers, some games available, paintings, photos. Ang problema, Pastor, kay mukuha tag photos sa Google. But the resolution is so low. So if we go to photographs, the resolution is very high. Okay. Nawadan ako boses. So this has very high resolution. So dili ma-distort ang picture. It can be zoom and it's still very, very high quality. Okay? So dili lang picture ni Ellen White, but the family as well. James White. So these are good photos from the White Estate. What else? Correspondence. Correspondence. James White, Edson, Willie White. I have a bad news. I have a bad news. I don't know what date was that. Maybe in 1950s or 1940s, I don't know. But Arthur White, and this was the Pastor Merlin Bird telling this with pain. They don't know what to do with all that Ellen White received, letters received by Ellen White from other people. It's too much, and the White Estate cannot contain it, and it's already deteriorating, and they cannot maintain it. Some of them are already deteriorated. And the most merciful act that the White Estate can do, according to Pastor Merlin Bird and was to burn them all. Like 80% of this correspondence. And only a few, most important people that are associated to Ellen White was retained. Some presidents, but the rest, like friends and all of this. So that's why now, in the Adventist Heritage, we are building our data archives now. We are working with IT now, so that we can gather all union conference missions. You can upload all documents there, important documents, minutes or whatever, correspondence, whatever, so that we can keep the records of all our history, including newsletters, books, whatever, photographs must be uploaded there, so that we can keep it rather than lose it. Okay? This coming Campuri, I will be teaching 2 honors there. The Messenger of the Lord honors. We will give out workbook. We will give pin, 2 pins. This is a partner pin for 2 honors. Messenger of the Lord and Adventist Pioneer Heritage honor, 2 pins to complete. Bukod pa yung ibibigay na patches for the honor. Okay? And I hope you will attend there, because we will be there. Okay? So, the condition for the Messenger of the Lord is for you to pass this game. Okay? You have to play this game, and when you play this game and pass the game, we will give you the honor. Oh, Nana? The internet is very slow.
We know that we have struggles with our young people, sige dula sa phone. This is one way to, this Pitcairn game app is not only web-based, but it is also downloadable in your mobile phones, iPad, Android, or iOS. Or just to instill a little encouragement if kids wants to play something. This is something very educational. The church has several already. One of them is this one. The other one is Heroes. I don't know if you have heard Heroes and another games. So this is just to inform you that we have also useful educational and faith-building applications and games.
Okay, so let's have 3 questions. Let's see if you can answer this. What happened to Ellen White when she was 9 years old? Okay, let's see. Hit in the face with a rock. Very good. How old was Ellen White when she had a first vision? Wow, very good. Okay, the last question. Ellen White was inspired. This means that God moved her hand when writing, gave her thoughts, told her exactly what words to use, or helped her sing. Okay, so just a little idea. Okay, let's go back to the ellenwhite.org. Okay. So at least you have a little idea of what resources we have. Now, take for example, have you gone to the General Conference? Would you like to see the General Conference Visitor Center of the White Estate? Let's go. Okay, so let's go to the main office virtual tour. And we hope we can make one for the division. Okay, so kini na ang tong virtual tour. Okay, it's there. Ang problema, mahina ang internet. Paano mag-virtual tour? Sorry. Wala, mahina talaga internet, Pastor. Let's see. There. So, at the beginning of the journey, you will see this. Kini, and then there's a show. The show will be the video that I have shown to you. And then, if you go inside, okay, there are some things you can find there. And a presentation room, a chapel that looks like 1800s. And we will be building this in SSD soon. Soon. We have one in SSD soon, like this also. Okay? So, so this is a virtual tour, so you can show this in. By the way, next week is Adventist Heritage and Spirit of Prophecy Sabbath. We will be giving to you the PowerPoint for the sermon next Sabbath. And it is done by Merlin Bird. On Friday night, the SSD will show to you my sermon, a video, and the same sermon I will be preaching in Davao Mission this coming Friday. So please show that if you want the sermon, or if you want to do the sermon yourself on Friday, I will give you also the sermon today. And on Sabbath, Dr. Merlin Bird's sermon will be handed to you. So before you go, Pastor, we will give them the PowerPoint so that you can do the sermon. Because Spirit of Prophecy Sabbath and Adventist Heritage. Next year, it's not just a Sabbath. It will be Adventist Heritage and Spirit of Prophecy Week. So we will give out materials to schools, hospitals, universities, churches, so that we can celebrate our heritage together. Amen? And it's very exciting. So let's go out. Okay. Now let's go to the research. The research. So there's a search engine here. Search engine. And if you want to know about, take for example the controversial cooking on Sabbath. What does the White Estate, these are, is it sin to take a bath on Sabbath, cooking on Sabbath? Or maybe vaccine. Vaccine. The controversial vaccine. Ellen White and vaccine. Games. Amusements. Whatever. Whatever topic you think, hindi na po bago sa White Estate yan. Yan po ay naitanong na at meron na rang mga documents. What else do you want to know? Basketball. Tingnan nga natin kung meron. Ball games, siguro. Ball games. It's there. Ala. Ball. Lalagyan na natin ball. Yeah. Dramatic, drama, are ball games out of bounds. Okay, swimming and ball playing on Sabbath. Dami. So, just to give you an idea that we have these resources. Only we don't know. If we only know, para na rin kayong Ellen White Research Center. Okay? You don't need to go to the research center to research. You have in your own palm the tool to research. Okay? You have in your own palm. Hindi na tayo mga kapatid, this is now the 21st century. Then next, we have also sermons. Spirit of Prophecy Day sermon since what? Since 1997. All the Spirit of Prophecy. Since 1997, we are already celebrating Spirit of Prophecy Day, and these are the sermons. And one of those sermons was Pastor Almoceras, Surviving the Age of Gullibility. Ano ba, Pastor, sa Tagalog yung gullibility? Pangit, no? Yung, ano yun? Madaling maniwala. Yan, mahirap kasi manggitin yung totoong word na gullibility. Ang daling maniwala, hindi na nagre-research. Okay, so these are sermons that you can use. Okay? Yeah, pangit eh. Meron talagang. May direct translation pero ayaw kong banggitin kasi pangit pakinggan. Okay? So, we have other resources. Document files. Yun yung pinakita ko sir kanina. Paintings. Christ the Narrow Way. Pastor, you want to have the Christ the Narrow Way mural? Painting? HD? It's here. The painting. Nandito yung painting na HD. So, good quality painting. And the video is also there, downloadable. Okay? The video is there, downloadable. All that you need for resources. And question and answer also. Emails. About emails that the White Estate is receiving and how they answer these emails. Okay? All are there. Wala pong nakatago. And some resources for teachers. Ito, resources for teachers such as God's Messenger, Pathfinder Honor, K-12 lessons. Wow. So these are lessons available for our teachers. Even lesson plans available for teachers. Puzzle. Okay? Things that we would need. Okay, what else? For pastors. Why Ellen White is a true prophet. These are, I think, PowerPoint presentations. These are PowerPoint presentation. Sorry, mahina lang po talaga ang ano. See, there's the PowerPoint presentation. And there are notes so that while you are presenting the PowerPoint, may notes sa baba. Good? Tapos sasabihin ng mga brethren, sasabihin ng mga pinsan natin, mga kapatid, na nangungumbinsi, hindi man lang kayo naturuan ng mga pastor nyo. Oh, di ba mga ganun ang pambato nila eh. Tapos, magsistay sila ng mga 3 to 4 days doon sa bahay. Pagkatapos ng weekend na yan, wala na. And then, ang kanilang laging sasabihin, hindi man lang kayo tinuruan. No? Tapos maniwala naman sila, oo nga, no, hindi ako naturuan. See, we are shutting our back doors. So all the resources are here. Naana diha ang mga PowerPoints. And plus the PowerPoints we are giving to you, all of it are available online. Even the sermon for the Sabbath is already online. Okay? What else? So these are resources for pastors. Asa na to? Share the vision in English. Why is Ellen White a true prophet? So let's download that and open. See? This is the exact presentation. Yung sermon ni Pastor Pierce, this is it. Some of the tests of a true prophet are there. Okay? Everything is available online. Amen? And then, let's go to another resource outside of the Wide Estate. First, let's go to Adventist Digital Library. Adventist Digital Library. If you want to know about the history of your local conference, church, or the periodicals na meron tayo are all available here. And we are asking now our unions, as much as possible, Pastor Makirang, all our newsletters must be scanned and we will give it to the archive so that your history can be easily traced. Even the conference, your newsletters, scan all your newsletters, buy a scanner, scan them, send it to us by PDF, and we will give it to the joint conference so you can easily write your own history by these resources. Okay? We are also building our own database in the SSD so that we can easily access all of this. Adventist Digital Library. Let me give you how to use it. At least, paano gamitin yung Adventist Digital Library. Take for example, Caldwell. Or, diretso na natin, Hamandre. Okay. Hamandre is J. Is there any Hamandre here? See? There's Hamandre in Java and also Hamandre family in the Philippines during the o'clock service of Pastor Hagendorf introduced. So these are Hamandres across the periodicals, outlook of the Far Eastern Division, Dagay Hamandre. So you can easily know what this Hamandre did to your own history. Naana diha? Okay? And it's just the beginning. Okay? It's just the beginning. So you can choose what year you want to choose. Okay? So these are the years that you can choose. And periodicals, all topics, everything. Another good resource is Adventist Archive. You want to know about minutes. Where are the minutes of the JAR conference or the union? Division minutes are already in the archive. Okay, open lang natin. Napakabagal. Periodicals and meeting minutes. Kung sa may mga available minutes sa meeting, ang division. So wala pa ay Southern Asia Pacific Division. So this will be my main task. These are the minutes available. From what year? Oh, from the very beginning of the General Conference. All are available. From the very start of the General Conference are all available there. So, ang goal na to is how we can digitize all the minutes of the missions, conference, and union so that we can easily trace what really happened. Amen? So those are our goal. Muhimo po taging ani, but in our own division, encompassing all our territories. These are good resources. And not only publications, but books available and periodicals. If you want to know about what happened at the very beginning of Adventism in the Philippines, Australasian Union Conference record was the key. But only up until 1911, if I'm not mistaken, because after that, we transferred to Asiatic Division. So we no longer are under Australasian. So if you want to know all about Asiatic Outlook, the newsletter, this is the Asiatic Division newsletter, starting from 1912. See, sabi ko kanina 1911. But 1912, we began the Asiatic Division. These are all the records. Even the minutes are also there. All the reports, every month, monthly report of the Asiatic Division are there. So makita nimo ang report ni Caldwell, ang report ni Makelhani, report ni Ashbo, and the rest of our pioneers are all reporting there monthly. And I was expecting, Pastor, that it happens now. But no, directors are no longer reporting monthly and a newsletter. So wala ta kabalo what is happening. But during their time, every single bit of our history was written. Pictures are being given. So at least you have a little idea of the resources that we have. Okay? So I don't want to take all the time now, but I just pray that pastors will be equipped through the tools, the trainings, and also the resources that is available for us. May the Lord bless us all.
Thank you so much, Pastor Brian, for the information of all pastors. Our last meal tomorrow is only up to lunch. The dinner is fasting because you will go home. I think after the presentation, we'll have the closing song with the
financial structure of our church. All right, so systematic benevolence, the financial stability of the Seventh-day Adventist Church today is largely due to the financial guidance of its pioneers, particularly Ellen G. White. While it is true that her writings contributed significantly to the church financial stability, the concept of systematic benevolence, or Sister Betsy, or SB, as you can read in the writings of Ellen White, SB is actually the abbreviation of the systematic benevolence, or other known as Sister Betsy, was not widely accepted by the members in her ministry. The lack of widespread acceptance of systematic benevolence during the pioneering days is still observable in contemporary times. After the Great Disappointment in 1844, the Sabbatarian Adventists, take note that after the Great Disappointment, the church, or the Millerite movement, was divided into three: the Spiritualizers, the Albany Conference, and the Sabbatarian Adventists. And later, the Sabbatarian Adventists, where Joseph Bates, Ellen White, and James White belong, they call it in 1863 as in the first General Conference as Seventh-day Adventist Church. Take note of that. So, after the Great Disappointment of 1844, the Sabbatarian Adventists lacked financial and organizational structures to address the financial needs of both the ministers and the movement. Resistance to organizing the Sabbatarian Adventists led many preachers to experience poverty. Take note of that because they don't like to be organized. There was a problem because of that mindset instilled to them by George Storr. All right. Although quite a few Sabbatarian Adventists were uncomfortable with a formal organization, systematic benevolence was eventually introduced to the church. Systematic benevolence is defined as practice of making regular contribution to the church. Systematic benevolence applied to the method of financing evangelistic work from the late 1850s to the late 1870s and become the precursor of the modern tithing system. All right. Now let's try to see the pre-systematic benevolence period, that is in 1844 to 1854. There was that lack of organizational and financial structure in our church. According to Storr, in the book, Come Out of Her, My People, published in the Midnight Cry, Volume 6, all right, it says, take care. This is one of the things that before 1844 great disappointment was instilled by George Storr that contributed to the delay of the formal organization of our church. It says, take care that you not seek to organize another church. No church can be organized by man's invention, but what it becomes Babylon the moment it is organized. The Lord organized His own church by strong bonds of love. So it's more on bonding. And it should be, that bonding should be, the motivating factor of that bonding is love. Stronger than that cannot be made. And when such bonds will not hold together, the professed followers of Christ cease to be His followers and rough off from the body as a matter of course. So it was the expectation of the Sabbatarian Adventist pioneers to advance the gospel work. However, the work was languishing due to the influence of George Storr, particularly when he wrote that statement in February 15 of 1844. So lack of organizational and financial structure, the emergence of self-supporting itinerant missionaries as a result, so nag-iya-iya na lang. And a spirit of independence also awakened. And take for example the experience of John Norton Lafboro or G.N. Lafboro. During his 3 months, because there was no financial structure of the church, John Norton Lafboro, during his 3 months of missionary in Illinois in 1857, he was compensated with $10, a buffalo skin overcoat, board and lodging expenses. Wow. So you see the impacts. Again, when he was in Michigan in winter of 1857 to 1858, he was compensated with 3 pounds of maple sugar cake, 10 basels of wheat. Inang basel, amo ni siya da, sa aton rin nga mailonggo, amo ni ang ginatawag naton nga panigahan. Okay? So dagantangan, datersyahan, midyahan ang panigahan. So that is our modern, siguro sa Western, Bacolod or Negros and Panay, this measurement of palay is very particular. But nowadays, it's no longer. But we use it before. So that is our common bushel. So he was compensated 3 pounds of maple sugar cake, 10 bushels of wheat, 5 bushels of apples, 5 bushels of potatoes, a pick of potatoes or mga 5 liters of beans, 1 ham, isa kapaa, balikawang, isang baboy, was given to him as compensation. Half a hog and $4 in cash. Would you like to go in that place with this kind of compensation? Now you see how our pioneers, made sacrifices for the sake of the gospel. Now, 4 months in Wisconsin, that was summer, he was compensated $20, free board and lodging, and traveling expenses. Another minister, in 1859, he traveled 200 miles by horse on a 3-week preaching circuit, delivering sermons. At the end of that 14 sermons, he was compensated $4. And that's why the popular saying among the ministers, have money, will preach, no money, no honey. No money, must farm or do carpentry. They were self-supporting. At the end of that 14 sermons, he was... All right, the second factor, that the work was languishing in pre-systematic benevolence was the economic crisis. The panic in 1857, triggered by the collapse of Ohio Life Insurance and Trust Company, was partly caused by Crimean War between the Ottoman Empire and Russia. So there was that war. In 1849, following the discovery of gold in California and expansion of railroads to the Midwest in the U.S., economy was booming largely due to war in Europe. So because there was war in Europe and farmers used to do the farming, but because of war, they were told by the government to take arms. So no one is doing the farming, and so they are dependent on the supply of food from America. And so that's the context of the economic context. And farming became a lucrative business, and the U.S. was primary supplier of goods to Europe. The U.S. economy reached its peak in August of 1853, but steadily declined afterwards, culminating the crash of the economy in October of 1857. Because a lack of organizational structure was the primary reason of the widespread financial instability during the period of the Advent movement. Disappointment has been the sad lot of our preachers, according to James White, when he wrote in the Review and Herald, page 164, disappointment has been the sad lot of our preachers, and now several of them are much sunken down under poverty, broken down health, and discouragement. So between the two factors contributing to the languishing of the gospel work, the lack of church organization and financial structure was the major that significantly hindered the progress of the work. Now, because of that, as they progress and they saw the need, and so our church, despite no financial structure, they started to ordain minister. And one of the ministers that was ordained in 1853 was named Washington Morse, and G.N. Andrews on June 18, 1854, the year after of Washington Morse's ordination, was also baptized. And Ellen White received, take note, Ellen White received her ministerial credential as an ordained minister on December 1. This is one of the credentials. And that credential, we extract it from Sunnyside in Avondale 3 weeks ago. So that one guy is the director of EGW director in APIO in Thailand, the West Visayan Union Conference, Spirit of Prophecy, Pastor Dr. Dulok Saribo, and of course the one, Pastor Adil, you know him. So in that document that we extracted of the ministerial credentials of Ellen White, it states, this is to certify that Mrs. Ellen G. White of Hellbirds, California, as an ordained minister in good standing in the General Conference of the Seventh-day Adventists, and is authorized to perform duties of the said office, conference year commencing December 1, 1985, signed by G.I. Butler, Uric Smith, the secretary, dated at Battle Creek on December 6, 1885. So, because of that lack of financial structure, God gave a vision to Ellen White in 1844 because of their experience. And James White wrote in Review in Herald in December 9, 1952, that says, "Dear servants of the Lord, who go out to teach the unpopular truths of God's Word, especially applicable to the present time, must be sustained." Now, because of lack of organizational structure, several times James White pushed the movement to organize. But there are those in the movement who were resistant because of the influence of George Storr. But, you know, James White kept on pushing this, and he did it through publication. "These servants of the Lord must go on in their errand of mercy, and as they go, they must and will be sustained. And it pains our hearts to receive large donation from individual to sustain the paper. Large or volume or huge amount of money was putting in for publication, but not for the support of the pastors." That was the observation of James White. That should be placed in their hands. Supposed to be the money that you give to the publication should supposed to be given to the pastors. But the members are not taking heed of the counsel of James White. That should be placed in their hands to bear the expenses from place to place and support their families if they have families at home. This was in 1852. And later, you will know the reason why this was pushed by James White. Now, in 1853, James White made an appeal to the Sabbatarian Adventists for financial support of the ministry under the principle of the gospel order. And that gospel order was the precursor of the introduction of the systematic benevolence. So the concept of systematic benevolence first appeared in an Adventist publication named Youth Instructor in 1854. And it says, Ellen G. White says, after, it's not, I think the citation is wrong, it's E.G. White. All right. The church, Ellen White says, the church must flee to God's word and become established upon the gospel order which had been overlooked and neglected. Again, Ellen White was given a vision to organize. You know, in 1852, James White pushed for the organization. And 2 years after, in a vision, Ellen White again supported the idea of James White to do the organization. With this observation, we can find that Ellen White is not the one making our doctrines and policies. Most of the time, it was based on their experience of the pioneers, and Ellen White was just confirmed or give guidance on the process of making of that policy. Take note of that, my friends. Now, in 1856, 4 years after James White pushed for organization, they experienced the worst. Because on December 9, 1856, Ellen White was given a vision because there were two Sabbatarian preachers, itinerant preachers, who quitted the ministry, namely G.N. Andros, John Nevin Andros, and John Norton Lafburo. Because one time, G.N. Andros received a letter from his wife telling him, "John, it's winter and we don't have firewood." So what is the implication then? Natugnawan, wala pagkaon, wala kwarta, ibakal ang iyang family. Much more to give them heat during the winter. And so with that experience, G. N. Andrews and John Norton Lafburo quitted the ministry. Now, on December 9, 1856, God gave the vision to Ellen White. God gave a vision to Ellen White concerning the dire situation of the pioneers in Wacon, Iowa. Both Ellen and James White traveled to Wacon by sleigh, crossing the Mississippi River before the ice had fully hardened. Now, what a dangerous trek. Before the ice had fully hardened, with the goal of bringing John Andrews and John Lafburo back into the ministry that was in 1856. But the pushing of the financial structure or organization of the church was pushed by James White, 1852. Now you see the sequence. The mission of the Whites was successful. However, financial support for the workers remained significant challenge, according to Dr. Burtz. So the leaders perceived that the time was ripe to invoke a more effective plan. So they started to think, what are the ways to sustain the needs of the church? Now in April of 1858, 2 years after, towards the end of winter, a Bible class was held in Battle Creek conducted by G. N. Andrews. They study on the scriptural mandates for the support of the ministry. And during this class, a concept of systematic benevolence on the tithing principle was proposed by the class members. So it was not Ellen White's. It was the result of the study of the students, Bible students of G. N. Andrews in Battle Creek. All right? So this marked the beginning of the development of organizational structure within the church. So the side plights of the two itinerant preachers, G. N. Andrews and Lafburo, led to the formation of this Bible class. Now in the evening of January 16, 1859, after a year or almost a year after of that Bible class that was organized by G. N. Andrews in Battle Creek, on the evening of January 16, there was that again a meeting of the church member to consider the subject on systematic benevolence as a means to spread the present truth. Now again, it's not coming from the tithe. The support of spreading the gospel as we do today, it's not coming from the tithe. It's coming from donations. All right? So, means to spread the present truth. John Nivens Andrews and Joseph Burchard Prisby discussed the topic with other church members participating in a discussion. The church commission, after that, discussion, as Andrews chaired that, discussion, it was decided on that committee that the church commission, G. N. Andrews, G.B. Prisby, and James White, to present the topic on the Sabbath of January 29 in 1859. On that Sabbath, systematic benevolence was adopted by the Sabbatarian Adventists to support the gospel work, and it was Kellogg. Dr. Kellogg was commissioned as the treasurer and James White as the secretary to inform the Sabbatarian Adventists about what they had decided on the systematic benevolence. So the idea of supporting Sabbatarian preachers was initiated by James White in 1852, stated, "My dear servants of the Lord who go out to teach unpopular truths of God's word, especially applicable to the present time, must be sustained." On the same note, James White stressed that support should not be limited to itinerant preachers, but should also extend to their families. However, this idea in 1852 was not fully embraced by the church members. So in December 9 of 1852, James White appealed again to the readers of the Review and Herald to sustain the itinerant preachers and their families. And in 1853, he made another appeal for the support for the preachers within the framework of the concept of the gospel order. Now, systematic benevolence first appeared in our publication in the Youth Instructor in 1854. All right? And in 1856, G.N. Andros and G.N. Lafboro left the ministry due to poverty. On December 9, this is now the sequence. December 9, 1856, Ellen White received a vision in Waukon, Iowa regarding the sad plight of the two itinerant preachers. In 1858, G.N. Andros presented a plan in a Bible class on how to support the gospel work in Battle Creek. The church members suggested the concept of systematic benevolence. On January 16, G.N. Andros and G.B. Prisby presented the topic to the church member. On the same date, James White, G.N. Andros, and G.B. Prisby were commissioned to present the topic at the Battle Creek Church. And on July 29, 1859, on that date, systematic benevolence was unanimously accepted by the church in Battle Creek, and this action was disseminated to the scattered members of the Advent movement. So systematic benevolence was a new scheme to support the gospel work. While systematic benevolence was not originally the idea of Ellen White, it emerged from the Bible study initiated by G.N. Andros, one of the leading scholars among the Sabbatarian Adventists. And the systematic benevolence biblical foundation is found in 1 Corinthians chapter 16 and 2 Corinthians chapter 8 verse 12. Advocate for the systematic plan, giving and provide equal opportunities to support the work. 2 Corinthians chapter 9 verses 5 to 7 emphasizes the attitude of benevolence, highlighting the importance of cheerful giving. So systematic benevolence, or we call it plan giving before and now, combined offering plan, was a financial strategy designed to support the gospel workers. However, its understanding did not align with the biblical teaching that gospel worker should be supported by tithes. All right. Now, to G.N. Andros, tithing belonged to the ceremonial law. Now, take note, their understanding. They never practiced and adopted, and even Ellen White did not accept that the minister should be supported by tithes, because they're thinking, the same way the thinking of G.N. Andros, that tithing belongs to the ceremonial law. So it was abolished during the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. And 1 Corinthians 6:16 that says, upon the first day of the week, this is their biblical foundation of systematic benevolence. Upon the first day of the week, let every one of you lay by him in store as God had prospered him, that there be no gatherings when I come. So with that, in the systematic benevolence period that was in 1859 to 1872, there were 5 principles derived from 2 Corinthians chapter 16, verse 2. And it starts with letter all, this is called the 5 P's. First, periodicity, every first day of the week. And everyone should participate, or participation, let every one of you. And number 3, there should be planning. Set aside a sum of money. And number 4, proportionality as God has prospered. And it should be promoted in literature and also in their gatherings. So those are the 5 P's derived from 2 Corinthians chapter 16 verse 2 as the foundation of systematic benevolence. So they have their guidelines. They made the guidelines of the systematic benevolence. 18 to 60 years old, male, 5 to 25 cents a week, collection time every Sunday. 18 to 60 years old, female, 2 to 10% a week, collection time every Sunday. For property owner was asked to set aside $1 to $5 of every $100 value of property. The systematic plan amounted only to 1% of the members' annual income as they computed by Strayer. Now, it's not 10%. It's not 10% or more. It's just 1% equivalent to their annual income. Now, Ellen White, when it was promoted, now, Ellen White supported the idea, and she wrote in 1859, as recorded in Testimonies of the Church, Volume 5, that says, "The plan of systematic benevolence is pleasing to God. I was appointed back to the days of the apostles and saw that God laid a plan by the descent of His Holy Spirit, and that by the gift of prophecy, He counseled His people in regard to system of benevolence. There is order in heaven, and God is well pleased with the efforts of His people in trying to move with system and order in His work on earth. God is leading His people in the plan of systematic benevolence." And this is one of the very points to which God is bringing up His people, which will cut the closest with some. With them, it cuts off the right arm and plucks out the eye, while others is a great relief. To noble, generous souls, our demands upon them seem very small, and they cannot be content to do so little. Now, in March 3, 1859, James White received a letter a month before. He received a letter because there was one member who practiced the systematic benevolence, and he asked James White how to use the collected money. And James White responded to that query of Brother Vaughan from Hillsdale, Michigan. And that says, "The church in that place are acting on the systematic benevolence plan and like it much. An inquiry is what is to be done with the money at the end of the month. We suggest that each church kept at least $5 in the treasury to help those preachers who occasionally visited them and labor among them." So if you are an itinerant preacher, if you are a pastor, every time you visit the church, you are sure to receive $5. So in the same year, a proposal was made recommending that each church allocate $5 to reimburse the expenses of the local minister, with any surplus to be remitted to Battle Creek Church. Now you see, it's beginning to make the structure on that financial aspect. It's very interesting. Now in the summer of 1859, James White and Ellen White took the initiative to promote not only the preachers, but Ellen White and James White took also the initiative of promoting systematic benevolence, and so the production of a publication known as Good Samaritan also arise. So in summer of 1859, James White and Ellen White took the initiative to promote systematic benevolence through the publication known as Good Samaritan. But this publication lasted only for 3 years because of the war, Civil War in America. It's difficult for our pioneers to continue 3 publications. So I think August 7, 1859, that was the last publication that he made. And among those publication of the Good Samaritan, according to my professor, only 5 were able to recover. And it's there in Andrews, in the Center of Adventist Research. Okay? Initiative was endorsed at a business meeting on August 7, 1859. Initiative was endorsed at a business meeting in Battle Creek, where a committee was appointed to receive donations of money and goods for those in need. A year later, the emphasis shifted on the supporting of the gospel. Now, from systematic benevolence, they shifted the emphasis to support not only the needy, but for the gospel workers. Due to the Civil War in April of 1861, it became difficult to support 3 Adventist periodicals. So they stopped this Good Samaritan. And there are two principles emerge from systematic benevolence. Number one, it is a collective compassion for the poor, widows, orphans, and senior citizens. Number two, support for ministers and missionaries. So systematic benevolence serves as the precursor of modern tithing system. James White said, I have not kept silence on the subject of systematic benevolence, of not favoring the plan. I have watched the plan since it was first proposed and put into operation. And it seems to me, according to John Lafburo, it seems to me as far as means are concerned, this plan has been the salvation of the cause of the present truth from bankruptcy. In other words, John Lafburo was on fire on promoting side by side with the Whites of this systematic benevolence. James White in 1868 said, this system is generally adopted by our people everywhere and affords a liberal support to our ministers, leaving them free to devote themselves to the work of the ministry. This was their observation when they have regularly support the workers because of the experience of John Lafburo and G.N. Andrews. So they made the financial organizational plan for the workers. As a result of strictly carrying out heaven's plan, there is much in our treasury, $150, waiting for some worthy object which will really advance the cause of the truth. So now there is now centralization. At first, it's only local church. But when the surplus money will be remitted to Battle Creek, so now they are becoming, there is the element of centralization when it comes to collection of money, as we did today. Now, Ellen James White said in 1861, this is the first stage of development of systematic benevolence to tithing. His understanding actually, there's a clerical error there. His understanding, again, is not somewhat distorted when it comes to tithing. Because he said, we do not urge Israelites. It's not Israelitish. We do not urge Israelites' tithing system as embracing the whole duty of believers. So James White was not a believer in 1861 of tithing system. All right? That system was necessary in God's plan of the Levitical priesthood. Para na sa Old Testament. That was the point of James White in 1861. The children of Israel were required to give a tithe or tenth. But in 1863, we are not so sure of that publication of Review in Herald dated January 6, 1863, because there was no name on that publication, but it was assumed, since he was the editor, that the one who wrote this is James White. And somewhat, he embraced the concept of tithing as God-ordained means to support the work of the church. The children of Israel were required to give a tithe or tenth of all their increase. And it cannot be supposed that the Lord requires less of His people when time is emphatically short. Says the prophets in Malachi 3, chapter 3, 8 to 10, will a man rob God? Yet you have robbed me. It's time to cease robbing God, that we may receive the fullness of His blessing. Who says that these tithes and offerings are merely speaking and praying in meeting. They believe that, we don't need tithes and offerings anymore if we are doing what the Bible says. Doing, speaking and praying in a meeting. away with such doubtful application of Scripture. If the prophet's Malachi is not here teaching the carrying out of Israelites' system of tithing, he is certainly enforcing a duty of the same nature, and his words may come home with to us with a false force. Now, in Ellen White, they believe there was a contention now that some Adventist historians believe that it was not Ellen White who proposed the tithing system, but it was Cartwright. But Cartwright, wrote about tithing system in 70s, but Ellen White started to promote tithing system way back in 1861. So, if other books you read says that Cartwright, is the one initiating for the tithing system to the Advent movement, strike out that idea because it was Ellen White. She started it in 1861 based on the review on Herald publication. All right. Now let's try to see Ellen White understanding of systematic benevolence to tithing. Now let's try to see let's try to see Ellen White. Okay. Understanding of systematic benevolence. The contribution required of the Hebrews for religious and charitable purposes amounted to fully 1/4 of their income. Now later on, Ellen White was convinced of the systematic benevolence, and now she's telling us that the Israelites of old cents of their income go back to the temple. That's why we are rigorous in promoting 10% or more, because it's grounded on the systematic benevolence as promoted by Ellen White according to the will of God. It's very difficult for us workers to promote systematic benevolence, COP, if we never experience that. So we need to experience that so that we are, qualified and authoritative when we discuss the matter to our members. Modesty aside, when I was a student, I practiced already this concept. And, the Lord, I can see that the Lord blessed me when I practiced this, even when I was a working student. So take note of what the statement of the prophet said. They believe that, returning or giving to the church will make us poor. But Ellen White says, so heavy a tax upon the resources of the people might be expected to reduce them to poverty. But on the contrary, the faithful observance of this regulation was one of the condition of their what? Prosperity. Kung the more ka nagahatag, hindi ka magpigado. That's what the Bible, or that's what Ellen White says. The more you give, the more you receive. So to promote the assembling of the people for religious service, as well as to provide for the poor a second tithe. Now systematic benevolence later on, transition to the concept of the second tithe. All right. And that second tithe transition to what we call COP today. So to promote assembling of the people for religious services, as well as to provide for the poor a second tithe of all the increase was required. This tithe would provide fund for the use of charity and hospitality. This was used by the Levites in entertaining strangers, and people of Israel used this tithe to feed the poor, and when the priest visited them, they will also get this 10% from their income, especially in the third year of that year of their feasts. So that was the idea of Ellen White. Now, the first stage of systematic benevolence from 1861 to 1862, the fact, according to Clark, the fact is, if we want to work to prosper in Ohio, this was his experience, we must bring all the tithes into the storehouse. We must have our systematic benevolence treasurers full to overflowing. Now, they are now promoting tithing at the same time systematic benevolence. It's no longer that they accepted that tithe is not does not belong to the ceremonial law, that they accepted that it is a biblical mandate. So a tenth means a tenth. But says one, we have not adopted the plan till of late at the organization. Well, if that is so, let us haste and redeem the time. Let us get into the habit of giving, setting apart the tithe, and let the person who gives think of what Malachi says and pledge accordingly. But the tithing system did not originate in the Hebrews. From the earliest times, the Lord claimed a tithe as his, and this claim was recognized and honored. Abraham paid tithes to Melchizedek, the priest of the Most High God. Tithe is the Lord's. Here's the same form of expression is employed as in the law of the Sabbath. So we can see, this is just my opinion, this is not yet established, but this is my discovery. The tithing system was given before the fall of man. This is my discovery, it's not yet established, this is my opinion, but I have three sources that I can give you with this discovery. Again, this is not yet established. I have to study further on this. Because from this text, we can find that the holiness of Sabbath and the holiness of tithe presented by Ellen White in equal footing. The seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. God reserved himself a specified portion of man's time and of his means, and no man could, without the guilt, appropriate either for his own interests. He asked us to acknowledge him as the giver of all things, and for this reason, he says, of all your possessions, I reserve a tenth for myself, besides gifts and offerings, which are to be brought into my storehouse. This is the provision God has made for carrying forward the work of the gospel. Now, what are the guidelines set forth by Ellen White states on tithings? Take note of this. Probably many of us are victim of this. We are not returning what belongs to God. Personal income, no problem with salary. It's already deducted. Right? Hourly wages, no problem. How about tips? You are getting tithe from tips, commissions, allowances. If you are given a certain portion of loan and what you are paying is less than ang sobra, nakuha na tong tithe. How about your refund in medical bills? Okay? Something to think about. Benefits. So when you retire, you have your pag-ibig and you already identify how much is the principal and how much is interest. Did you get? The interests. Now you see, individual profits from a business or professional operation, investment income, pension benefits, and inheritances, to name only a few. In some cases, gift. Gitagaan tabayo as gift. Okay? Did we get a portion as tithes? Now you see, in some cases, gifts and services should be included. Now let's go to the issues of tithing now. Various interpretation of tithing system. This is, prevalent in our local churches. Some believe that tithing system or tithe is applicable only for Old Testament people. Number two, it is applicable to church building project. Next, return tithe as the basis of receiving blessing. All right? Wherein many of our church members, they believe that they will return God's tithe for them to be blessed. So if that is our concept, I believe it is a form of bribery. If our thinking that we return God's tithes in order for God to bless us, that is form of bribery. Because returning, una kita anay ginpakamaayo kag mag-uli. Kay wala kita sang iuli kung wala kita ginpakamaayo. Pero kung amo na aton mindset, it's a form of bribery. Just like when we do investment, nga kung diin pa to ang sapat nga masakiton, amo i-invest naton sa Ginoo para mabuhi. That is a wrong concept of offering. In like manner, friends, let's try to evaluate our way of thinking when it comes to this matter. Returning tithe as the basis of receiving the blessing. Used to support layman, teacher, and other ministries. Christians has liberty to use tithe as what Ellen White did. Ellen White dispensed amount of money by herself. It has a record. But let's try to see what is the context. Now, there was a letter by Watson. Okay? Because Ellen White has, dispensed or used the tithe according to what she saw fitted. All right? There was a letter. And this letter was controversial in 1905. My brother, I wish to say to you, be careful because, I forgot the man. The name of the man. Okay, Watson. George Watson was the president of Colorado Conference. When he learned that Ellen White using tithe, dispensing tithe, according to her will, Watson started to attack her. And this was the letter dated 1905. My brother, I wish to say to you, be careful how you move. You are not moving wisely. The least you have to speak about the tithe that has been appropriated to the most needy. Because Ellen White gave that amount to the needy retired pastor. White and black. Appropriated the most needy and the most discouraging field in the world, the more sensible you will be. It has been presented to me for years. Take note, it was presented to me for years that my tithe was to be appropriated by myself. She was told by God to aid the white and colored ministers who were neglected and did not receive sufficient properly to support their families. When my attention was called to aged ministers, white or black, it was my special duty to investigate unto their necessities and supply their needs. This was to be my special work, and I have done this in a number of cases. No man should give notoriety to the fact that in special cases, the tithe is used in that way. She continued, this is a Watson letter. In regard to the colored work in the South, that field has been and is still being robbed of the means that should come to the workers that field. If there had been cases where our sisters have appropriated their tithe to the support of the ministers working for the colored people in the South, let every man, if he is wise, hold his peace. I have myself appropriated my tithe to the most needy cases brought to my notice. I had been instructed to do this, and as the money is not withheld from the Lord's treasury, it is not a matter that should be commended upon, for it will be necessitate my making known these matters, which I do not desire to do, because it is not best. Kontra man tani sa iyang malatyagon, but she was told by God, so she did it. Some cases has been kept before me for years, and I have supplied their needs from the tithe, as God instructed me to do. And if any person shall say to me, Sister White, will you appropriate my tithe where you know it's most needed? I shall say, yes, I will, and I have done so. I commend those sisters who have placed their tithe where it most needed to help do a work that is being left undone. And if this matter is given publicity, it will create knowledge that would better be left as it is. I do not care to give publicity to this work, which the Lord has appointed me to do and others to do. I send this matter to you so that you shall not make a mistake. Circumstances alter cases. I would not advise that anyone should make practice. This is for us pastors. I would not advise that anyone should make a practice of gathering up tithe money. But for years, there had now and then been persons who have lost confidence in appropriation of the tithe, who have placed their tithe in my hands, and said that if I did not take it, they would themselves appropriate it to the families of the most needy ministers they could find. I have taken the money, given a receipt for it. Oh, there is an evidence. And told them how it was appropriated. I write this to you so that you shall keep cool and not become stirred up and give publicity to this matter, lest any more shall follow their example. Now, let's try to see and examine on this letter, and the General Conference make this observation. So let us here draw some conclusions from the unusual incident in the denomination history. Number one, this is provided by the General Conference. Ellen White was directly, what? She was directly instructed by God to aid certain poverty-stricken ministers, both white and black. Number two, Ellen White's first task was to notify the conference of the existing needs. Only if did not respond did she then step into the breach with emergency assistance. So, she followed protocol. Number three, the money thus disbursed was used for living expenses of destitute workers, not for operating expenses of institutions, the publishing of literature, etc. Number four, the pre-1911 financial situation does not exist today in the United States or any other parts of the world. Pension plans are available now and did not exist when she wrote this letter. Right? What else? In every paragraph of her letter, there is at least one sentence in which he explicitly urged Elder George Watson to keep quiet about the situation. This was a special work again. It's not the work of any other person or any pastor. It was intended only for Ellen White. This was her special work, not the special work of others. If everyone followed her example, the financial structure of the church would be substantially damaged. Independent ministries, take note of this. Independent ministries who circulate this letter for their own personal purposes in order to justify solicitation and / or acceptance of tithe funds from their fellow Eastleigh church members are doing exactly what Ellen White told Elder Watson not to do so. The money was not withheld from the Lord's treasury, in that it was being applied to the denominationally recognized ministers. So tithing is secret, reserved by God for Himself. It is to be brought into the treasury to be used to sustain the gospel laborers in their work. Salaries and expenses of ministers and Bible instructors. So who are the recipients of this money? It covers the salary and expenses of Bible teachers in various educational institutions. What else? Salaries and expenses of minister physicians. What else? Retirement benefits for gospel workers and needy mission fields in North America and abroad. Ellen White says the portion that God has reserved for Himself, it is not to be diverted to any purpose that which He has specified. Let none at liberty to retain their tithe, to use according to their judgment. They are not to use it for themselves in an emergency. Maski gahimumugto na ang pasyente kung maghulam sang remittance ang church elder, the tithe will not be used for any emergencies. Take note of that. This is a solemn warning for all of us. They are not to be used for themselves in an emergency, nor apply it as they see fit, even in what may regard as the Lord's work. A very plain, definite message has been given to me for our people. I am bidden to tell them that they are making a mistake in applying the tithe to various objects, which, though good in themselves, are not the object to which the Lord has said that a tithe should be applied. Those who make this use of tithe are departing from the Lord's arrangement. God will judge for these things. And what are the inappropriate use of tithe? Number one, care of the poor, the sick, and the aged. The educational needs of the students, working students, it should not be used. Church, school purposes and cultures, church expense, church or institutional building. So when you solicit money from America, please ask them. Probably it's coming from tithe. And do not apply it to any various object, but label it as tithe, not to be applied in any project. Now, to conclude our study this morning, we are, ahead of time. 17 minutes ahead of time. Systematic benevolence paved the way for the understanding of tithing system. Seventh-day Adventist financial organizational structure was the result of Bible study by the pioneers, not initiated by Ellen White. She merely confirmed the concept. Most of our doctrines were the results of Bible studies of, the pioneers. Wala sila ginhungit ni Ellen White nga amuning aton fundamental beliefs. Okay? So, our assignment, this is our assignment, rigorous education of members about tithing along with combined offering plan from COP to SOP must be carried out by every delegate of this convention. Let's have our lunch.